Hi everybody, I hope you're having a great day today. I'm Chef Tucker, and tonight I'm going to be making braised beef with sour onions. Now, braised beef with sour onions is a very simple dish. The complicated stuff is nowhere to be found. We just have a long cook time. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at our mise en place to see what we're working with. We have beef country style ribs. We have celery, carrots, and onions, which makes up our mirepoix. We have some beef broth, we have some thyme, we have some garlic, and that's going to be our braised beef. That's going to go in the oven, and while it's doing that, we're going to go ahead and make our sour onions, which are going to contain white onions, malt vinegar, and a little bit of seasoning. Pretty straightforward. Now for our gravy, we're going to take our pan drippings, and we're going to turn that into a gravy by adding a little bit of rosemary to it and thickening it up with a roux. So, easy stuff, no big deal. Let's get into it by getting into the kitchen and making ourselves some dinner. All right, first we're going to go ahead and throw a little bit of olive oil in. Just a little bit, don't want too much. Then we're just going to hit our beef with a little bit of seasoning. Salt and pepper to be specific. I don't want anything else going on at this time. And then we just take it. There we go. Using a 12 o'clock method, I started up here and just worked my way around. I knew as soon as this one was ready, the rest of them would be ready too. Alright, so they are now seared on all sides. We're going to take this, move it on to the next part, and hit our pan with a little deglaze. Then we're going to take a little bit of beer. And deglaze. Now what we're going to do is, while we're deglazing, we're just going to reduce this liquid by about half. We still want a lot of that liquid in the final braise, but we're also looking for it to concentrate down some. Lose a little bit of that water, keep a lot of its flavor. We probably only have a few minutes with the heat set on high, but you know, everybody's stove works differently. Everybody's pans are different sizes, so you're just going to have to eyeball it and work to the best of your ability to see where it's going. Alright, so this reduced down by about half. Now what we're going to do is get the rest of our braising material ready and throw it in the oven. Okay, so once you have everything braised and deglazed, we're going to go to an old school braising method, and we're going to be doing it in the oven. But if you got a slow cooker or a pressure cooker, you can do it in that too. First I'm going to add just some torn up parsley, some thyme, some rough chopped garlic, and I wanted all of this in the braise, but I didn't necessarily want it in the pan when I was deglazing because I didn't want it to blend too much into this. Okay, the next thing we do, go ahead and add our deglazed liquid plus our mirepoix that we put in there. And then right on top, we go ahead and put the rest of our beef. Make sure you get all the juices out of there too. Then we're going to add some beef broth until it comes halfway up the side of the beef. And that is what we're looking for. It's coming up about half the side. And we're going to take a piece of parchment, line it down. All right, now we're going to put it in the oven to braise for about 4 hours at 350 degrees. You're going to give it a check every hour and a half-ish, just to make sure that there's still liquid in there, so it's going to keep going through the braise, and just check the general tenderness of the meat. We got our braising liquid, and we're going to turn this into our sauce. And while our sauce is going, we're also going to be working on our sour onions. To help regulate the heat a little bit better, I'm going to put a little bit of oil in there. And then we're going to throw our onions in. Then we're going to throw about a tablespoon of butter. Now over here we're going to throw 2 tablespoons of butter and let that melt. Now you can do these onions ahead of time so you're not doing them at the same time, but I'm trying to stay on time target, so both things are going to be done at the same time. Over here we've got our butter melting, and we're going to make a nice little roux out of that. So I got approximately 2 tablespoons of butter in here, and I got approximately 2 tablespoons of flour. There we go. That is a nice looking roux. Now we're just going to cook it a little bit, just to cook some of that flour taste out of there and give it a little bit of nuttiness. But it doesn't have much longer to go. All right, see how we got this dark brown right there? That says to me, that's what we're looking for. Now we're gonna add a little bit of beer to it. Let it thicken up real quick, and then we'll add, let's add a little bit more beer. A little bit more beer sounds good. And then we're going to add our braising jus to it. And then just whisk like crazy to break up all that roux particles that clumped up and seized up. Those onions are coming along nicely. I'm not wanting them to get too soft, but I am wanting them to just have a little bit of caramelization on them. And for that, you just let them sit in the pan. We're going to add probably about a teaspoon of rosemary. Add less if you're not a huge fan of rosemary. I just figured rosemary would pair nicely with everything tonight. And I wanted it to be affecting the sauce directly and not necessarily the cooking. That way the sauce has a little bit of variance from the actual beef itself. Now over here, this is about where I'm wanting it, where it's got a little bit of char on it. I'd like it a little bit more, but I'd say that's pretty good for what we're doing. We're going to season it with some salt and pepper. Now that our onions have a nice little caramelization going to it, I'm going to add a little bit of vinegar. I'm going to use malt vinegar, but I'd suggest either malt vinegar apple cider or red wine, depending on the tartness or flavor you're looking for. I'm looking for this malt to help complement the beer and the sauce a little bit. So I put about a quarter cup in, give or take. And then we're just going to let this kind of go and cook out to where the vinegar is all but gone. And all we have left are onions with that vinegar flavor. All right, let's check out our, that sauce is looking fantastic. Now we're going to add just a pinch of salt and pepper to that. And I'll do 2 light pinches because it's already got some seasoning from before, but we also don't want to forget about it now since we've been adding stuff to it. Because anytime you add something new to the pot, you got to adjust your seasonings. All right. So right here, our onions are just about ready. As you can see, the liquid in them is almost gone. Give them 1, 2. Oh, that malt vinegar smells great. Reducing, hitting it with the sweetness of the onions. We're going to add just a teaspoon to a tablespoon, depending on how much you want, of heavy cream. Now we're just waiting for the last few minutes, which is only going to be a minute or 2. And everything will be ready to eat. So here's our final product. It's a little bit much for a weeknight meal, but not too terribly bad. Everything looks good. Everything smells. Guys, I wish you could be here for this. It smells amazing. So let's check out what we've got. Pulls apart. No need for a knife. Get a little bit of that gravy, some onion. That is beautiful. The beef just falls apart, melts in your mouth. The gravy, creamy. It's got a bit of the bite from the rosemary. You're getting a little bit of bitter from the beer. And the onions, since we only went partially way through them, doing the high heat, they caramelize, but they still have a good crunch, so they got a mouthfeel. And they got a nice sourness coming from the vinegar that we used. The malt is just exploding. And it's got a nice sweetness just from the caramelization of the onions. This is outstanding, guys. It is, you guys got to try this. A little bit odd. Trust the process some. And just enjoy. All right, enough of that. So, like I said, an explosion of flavors just from the different complementing flavors. It goes in a sour, beery direction with that nice heartiness of beef and the gravy to go with it. We're layering flavors the entire way. Try it at home. And if you like this video, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Comment below if there's anything you'd like to know more about or like to see. And as always, Thank you for cooking with me.